This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. I'm Sophie Ikenye. Our top stories. Containing coronavirus, screening is stepped up from Nigeria to South Africa. We have the latest in Lagos.
And I hope we are as prepared as we were during the Ebola crisis. So seeing what I saw here, I was actually very happy.
The top UN court orders measures to prevent the genocide of Muslims in Myanmar. We speak to the Gambian Justice Minister who brought the case to trial. Will he or won't he run for another term? That's a question the BBC put to Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara.
Alassane Ouattara has not made his decision, but I have until the month of July to make a decision.
Also in the program, Waste Not, Want Not. We visit a school where disused plastics are used as building blocks of classrooms like real-life Lego. In sports, a former Nigerian international Victor Moses signs for Inter Milan on a loan deal till the end of the season. Thanks for joining us on Focus on Africa from BBC World News. China is imposing tough travel restrictions to contain a new deadly virus, and many African cities are taking precautionary measures to limit its potential spread. Now, coronavirus has reached Japan, Thailand, South Korea and the US. 600 people are infected and 17 have been killed, and the first death outside the initial outbreak area has now been reported. As millions of people are traveling for their Chinese New Year holiday, airports are on high alert. Now, across the continent, several countries like Kenya, South Africa, Egypt, but also Nigeria are enhancing their security checks at the airports. Our correspondent Mayeni Jones reports from Lagos.
Taking the temperature. It's common practice for passengers arriving at Lagos's Murtala Mohammed International Airport to be screened by thermal scanners. Now, authorities have put the country's international airports on red alert, following news of a virus spreading across China. One of the positive legacies of the Ebola crisis of 2014 is that airports here already have screening equipment.
We have stages, but we have all these things in place. If you look at it, it's something we can treat at the airport level. We are treated, and if it's too much of what they can do, we have another center at the tarmac, purposely built for this kind of thing.
For passengers, knowing that procedures are already in place is a relief.
I was actually happy, I was impressed, because I was also already thinking in my mind that I hope Nigeria is getting prepared for this new outbreak of virus that's already been reported in China. And I hope we are as prepared as we were during the Ebola crisis. So seeing what I saw here, I was actually very happy.
I feel that it's one of your business and you must do it. And you have to know about our health, from where we are coming. So to know that we are healthy and we are feeling fine.
The Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria has asked passengers to comply with the measures at the country's airports and to subject themselves to any checks they're asked to do. Nigeria successfully kept the Ebola virus at bay 6 years ago. It's hopeful the lessons it learned then will serve it again this time round. Mayeni Jones, BBC News, Lagos.
Well, Dr. Ngozi Erundu is an associate fellow at Chatham House. Thanks for taking time to talk to us on Focus on Africa. How vulnerable is the continent?
Well, with the trade and the tourism between China and different countries in Africa, there is definitely a chance that there will be an imported case from China. I think that the 2017 estimated about 200,000 Chinese workers in Africa, so it's something that's definitely potential, or possible, apologies.
So what should people be doing exactly?
Well, I think with the Nigeria CDC, they recently put out a public health just kind of information saying that at airports there will be increased screening, there will be questions for people who are coming from Wuhan province, but I think as we see the outbreak or the infections being beyond the Wuhan city, there'll be more kind of alerts from other cities in China as well. Just I think increased vigilance at the different airports in Africa would be really important.
But how well is this coronavirus known on the continent? How do people know that this is it? What are the symptoms? What are the signs?
Well, this coronavirus is not really well known anywhere, not just on the continent, because it's novel. But we do have some information from other coronaviruses, like the Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome virus, also SARS. And so we have some idea of what coronaviruses can cause. But some coronaviruses are very mild, they're very benign, and we live with them every day. So really what we're trying to do is just make sure that people do first-line precautionary measures like washing your hands. If you're coming from Wuhan or somewhere else in China and you start to fall ill, it's very important to go seek medical attention immediately. Avoid being around sick people, avoid being around animal markets. Those are the basic things that people can do.
How would you compare this with the SARS virus?
At the moment, we can't really compare it with the SARS virus other than knowing that it's from the same family. But like I said, coronaviruses, it's a breadth of severity. It can be very benign, it can be something that causes a cold, or it can be something that can be quite fatal. Now, we know that this virus, there are some fatalities, but we don't have enough information to understand what's the case fatality rate, so just how virulent the virus is at the moment. But that's something that the WHO and the international community are working on right now.
How far are they with that now?
I think that the Chinese health authorities have been pretty open in the past few days, and so I can't tell you how far they are with it, but every day, every hour, really, we get more information. So I think in the next week or so, we'll have some information about that.
I'm curious about what people should do and countries should do to level to lower the level of panic. Yeah.
I think that it's really important to communicate, since we don't have so much information about this virus, that people should be concerned, meaning that they do what they need to do to protect themselves, but that they shouldn't be overly worried. You know, if you may want to think about, do I need to go to China right now? But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go to China. It just means that you need to kind of think through the different steps. And it's not just about China anymore, because this is a globalized society.
It is indeed. Okay, Dr. Ngozi Arundi, thank you for taking time to talk to us and Focus on Africa.
Thank you very much.
Now, the International Court of Justice has ordered measures to prevent the genocide of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. These include the prevention of killing, causing serious bodily or mental harm, as well as preserving any evidence of possible genocide that has already occurred. Now, thousands of Rohingya died and more than 700,000 have fled to Bangladesh since 2017. The ICJ case was lodged by the Gambia, a Muslim-majority country. Anna Holigan sent us this report.
The judges ruled that the Rohingya who remain in Myanmar's Rakhine state face a real risk of genocide. In order to ensure their right to exist, the UN's top court issued 4 emergency measures for Myanmar to prevent killings, destruction, or any acts designed to stop the Rohingya from giving birth. In other words, any actions that violate the Genocide Convention, to ensure its military doesn't commit acts of genocide, preserve and prevent the destruction of evidence of genocide, and report on the measures implemented within 4 months, and then again every 6 months until the ICJ reaches a decision on the bigger question of whether Myanmar is guilty of deliberately trying to destroy the Rohingya people. And that may not be for years. While the court doesn't have the power to enforce its rulings, human rights groups have urged governments and UN bodies to weigh in to ensure that the emergency measures are enforced. Anna Holigan, BBC News in The Hague.
Well, the man who brought the case to court on behalf of the Gambia is its Justice Minister Abubakar Tambadou. He was in court in The Hague today. Thanks for taking time to talk to us on Focus on Africa. You must be quite pleased with this result. What does it mean to you and the Gambia?
Well, I am indeed very pleased with the result. I think the fact that all 17 judges of the ICJ agreed with the Gambia's request for provisional measures speaks a lot about the justification of this case in the first place, but more importantly, it's about how the Rohingya in Myanmar, especially those who are still in Myanmar, have had their hopes in international law and international justice restored today. I think this decision is a triumph of international law, and it shows that when states take up their responsibility under different treaties and conventions, particularly ones as serious as the Genocide Convention, then certainly we can all make the world a better place.
What role will the Gambia be playing now that the ruling is out?
Well, we are pleased with the ruling. The Gambia's case is not just a request for provisional measures. There is a substantive case which will continue for the next few years, I believe based on established practice at the court, in which the Gambia is asking the court to find that Myanmar either committed genocide or failed in its obligation under the Genocide Convention to prevent and punish genocide. But we are a long way from that yet. What this decision today has done is to further strengthen the Gambia's resolve to seeing that justice is ultimately done for the Rohingya.
How will you be able to hold Myanmar then to account in this case?
Well, I have every reason to believe that Myanmar, consistent with its responsible attitude insofar as this case is concerned, by appearing before the ICJ with very senior members of the government during the hearings last month in December, and again today during the court's delivery of the decision on provisional measures. They have shown that they are a responsible member of the international community insofar as this case is concerned. I have no reason to believe that they will not act consistently with this attitude and abide by the court's decision.
Yes, very briefly, back home in the Gambia, there's been the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that's been going on. Do you think that's enough to bring healing to the families who are traumatized by the former regime?
Well, it may not bring healing for all the families, but it is certainly bringing healing to some families. I believe that the overriding objective of the Truth Commission, in as much as it is to bring healing and closure and to identify for prosecution those who bear the greatest responsibility, the overriding objective is to enable us as a government identify the causes of the circumstances that led to the 2 decades of brutal human rights violations and abuses under former President Jammeh, and to enable the Gambia government going forward to put in place mechanisms to prevent recurrence.
All right. Abubakar Tambadou, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us here on Focus on Africa. Thank you. Well, let's now take a quick look at other stories making headlines across Africa and the rest of the world. Angola's chief prosecutor says he intends to issue an international arrest warrant for Isabel dos Santos if she fails to cooperate with a major fraud investigation in which she has been charged. Ms. dos Santos is regarded as Africa's richest woman. She's been accused of mismanagement and misappropriation of funds while she was head of Angola's State Oil Corporation. She denies the charges. A banker implicated in the case against Isabel dos Santos has been found dead in Lisbon. Nuno Ribeiro da Cunha managed the account of the oil firm Sonangol, formerly chaired by Ms. dos Santos, at the Portuguese lender Eurobank. Dozens of world leaders have attended a ceremony in Jerusalem to mark the 75th anniversary of the liberation of the Auschwitz death camp in Nazi-occupied Poland. The event was held at Israel's memorial to the 6 million Jews murdered by the Nazis and their accomplices during the World War II. Ivory Coast is set to hold elections in October, and it will be an important test for the country's political stability. There is currently an arrest warrant for former rebel leader and candidate in the poll, Guillaume Soro, and President Alassane Ouattara this month said he intends to modify the constitution ahead of the poll. BBC Afrique's Nicola Negos spoke to Mr. Ouattara in a wide-ranging interview.
I can assure you that the election will be free and fair and transparent. The date is October 31st, according to the Constitution. And anyone can run for the job, provided, of course, that the Constitution and the Electoral Code make it possible.
Anyone can run for the job, including President Alassane Ouattara?
No, President Alassane Ouattara has not made his decision, but I have until the month of July to make a decision.
Why is it so difficult to make a decision?
No, it's not difficult. It's just that that's the time given to me by the Electoral Commission. There is no reason for me to rush, and because I don't want to be a lame duck president.
Let's speak now about your former ally, Guillaume Soro. Yes. What's happening with him?
Well, you have to ask him. Yes, you have to ask him what's happened to him.
Many of your detractors that I have spoken with are saying that the warrant against him showing that you are scared of him. What do you have to answer to that?
I think that's complete nonsense. Everyone knows that. I think it's a process which is in the hand of the courts, and he should go back and face the courts, that's all.
Let's speak now about economy, very important for you as a former economist.
Yes.
You came here in the UK to discuss about investment.
Yes.
What more do you need from the UK?
Well, we need investment, although there is a lot of investment from the UK companies and government in the mining field, in energy, in infrastructure, and we believe in gas and oil, but we believe that the UK is an important partner.
Last month, with French President Emmanuel Macron, you announced the new name for the currency ECO, replacing the CFA, but it seems that everyone is not happy with that.
I'm not sure of that. This decision was a decision made by the head of states of the West African Monetary Union, and the major elements are that we want to cut the link with the operations account, so the reserves will go back to our central bank. They will be able to place it wherever they want, Bank of England, Swiss National Bank, Federal Reserve, Bank of France, and close the account. And second element, which is important, is to have the Executive Board, the Monetary Policy Committee, and the Banking Commission, where there will be no French representative. This is immediate.
This is Focus on Africa from BBC World News. Still to come, Nigeria's Women World Cup goalkeeper Chiamaka Nadozie joins French club Paris FC Féminine on a 1.5-year deal. I'm Sophie Ikenye, and you're watching Focus on Africa from BBC World News. The top stories on this program: containing coronavirus, screening is stepped up from Nigeria to South Africa. The International Court of Justice has ordered measures to prevent the genocide of Rohingya Muslims in Myanmar. The Gambian minister behind the case tells the BBC he is delighted with the result. Well, let's find out what's happening in the world of sport. Peter.
Many thanks, Sophie. Now, debutants Nigeria have lost their second match at the Under-19 Cricket World Cup in South Africa. The Nigerians were all out for 57, losing to the West Indies by 257 runs. Nigeria also lost their first match of the tournament against Australia by 10 wickets. Nigeria's bowlers have failed to make any impact whatsoever in the tournament so far. Meanwhile, South Africa are preparing for their fourth and final test match against England, which starts in Johannesburg on Friday. After winning the opening test in Centurion in late December, Faf du Plessis' men suffered heavy defeats in Cape Town and Port Elizabeth and now trail Joe Root's side 2-1.
Yeah, obviously I think this last test match is very important. We would love a win or make it a draw, obviously through the series. But yeah, in the context of the Test Championship, obviously it will do us really well. I think we still got quite a fair number of games, and obviously the more wins we get behind our name or our belt, it's just going to make things easier, and we can grow on it.
Some football transfer news now. Former Nigerian international Victor Moses has joined Italian giants Inter Milan on loan till the end of the season with an option to buy. The deal brings an end to his loan deal with Turkish side Fenerbahce and reunites him with Antonio Conte, who managed him at Chelsea. He becomes the 8th Nigerian to play at Inter, the others including the likes of Kanu, Taribo West and Obafemi Martins. French club Le Havre have announced that it has reached a deal to sell Zimbabwe's Tino Kadewere to Ligue 1 side Lyon. However, Kadewere, the leading scorer this season in Ligue 2 with 18 goals, will be loaned back to Le Havre until the end of the season. The 24-year-old has reportedly signed for $16.5 million on a 4.5-year deal. Nigeria's Women's World Cup goalkeeper Chiamaka Nnadozie has joined French club Paris FC Féminine. The 19-year-old has sealed a 1.5-year deal with the club from Nigerian giants Rivers Angels. She impressed during last year's World Cup, where she played 3 matches and kept 1 clean sheet. And Scottish side Celtic hope Ismaila Soro will be in Glasgow as soon as possible after the Bnei Yehuda midfielder passed a medical ahead of his proposed transfer. The 21-year-old is awaiting a work permit after agreeing a 4.5-year contract. Soro was born in Ivory Coast. Now, the 21st edition of the Dubai Marathon will be held tomorrow morning, with Ethiopian runners expected to cement their dominance. Their men and women have won 9 of the last 10 races, but Kenya's Eric Kiptanui will be hoping to buck that trend. Kiptanui, who trains with Eliud Kipchoge, says he is nervous but determined.
I'm really nervous, but I'll go for it. I'll do it. No, of course, always Kipchoge says that no human is limited, and I believe in that. No one is limited. Anything can happen. Yeah.
And finally, in tennis, South Africa's Kevin Anderson is out of the Australian Open after losing his second-round match to the American Taylor Fritz. That game went to 5 sets, with Anderson losing 6-4, 7-6, 6-7, 2-6, 2-6. Sophie, you're all up to speed with your sports.
Thank you very much indeed, Peter. Thank you. Waste not, want not. Ivory Coast is putting this saying into practice in the construction of some of its schools. The classrooms cost almost half the price to build and can be put together using just a hammer. Since 2018, discarded plastic has been turned into 26 classrooms, as Victoria Uonhunda reports.
These classrooms are made entirely out of plastic waste. They are being built in Ivory Coast, where, according to UNICEF, 1.6 million children don't go to school because there are not enough classrooms. Since 2018, 26 classrooms made from plastic waste have been built. For teachers in the town, this has changed things for the better.
I used to be in a classroom where it wasn't even possible to find places where children could sit. I once tripped over something while I was walking towards the blackboard. This was definitely not a classroom.
Alongside a Colombian company, UNICEF started building classrooms made from plastic waste, and they hope to build over 500 others.
The brick is 100% plastic. The bricks are fire retardant. The bricks are waterproof. The bricks do not require any cement or sand. It is actually possible to build a classroom within about 3 weeks to a month.
According to estimates, only 5% of plastic waste is recycled, and most of it ends up in landfills in poor neighborhoods. The hope is now to have enough classrooms built in the next 2 years to accommodate 25,000 children. Victoria Uonhunda, BBC News.
Waste not, want not, indeed. Well, don't forget you can get in touch with me and the rest of the team on social media. I'm at Kenya. That's Focus on Africa for now. Thanks for your time.